Here to introduce our first coach of SEC Media Days, head coach of the 2013 National Championship, fourth highest winning percentage of any active head coach in college football. In his previous conference, the conference where he worked prior to moving to Texas A&M, he had the highest winning percentage in that conference's history, including 3 titles. 2013 Rawlings Coach of the Year, and the 1987, this is one I didn't know, Division III National Player of the Year. Pleased to introduce the recipient of a new pair of Texas A&M boots at his press conference when he was hired, Jimbo Fisher, the head coach of the Texas A&M Aggies.
Howdy. See, if y'all don't know, you're supposed to say howdy back. That's an A&M thing. No, but thank you, Commissioner. And first of all, I'd like to say it's great to kick off the media days here in the SEC. It's a great honor. And like I say, very excited to be here at Texas A&M and very excited to be back in the SEC. As some of y'all know, this is the conference in which I cut my teeth on. So I understand a lot about it and know a lot about it. But, in our short time at A&M, we've been there since December. We've been very busy trying to establish the things and put the culture in place in which we think we have to be successful in this league. As I know, this is as good a league as there is in college football, and we know that you'll be challenged every week. So there's a way in which you have to go about things and a process in which things have to be done to get the results in which you need. And there's no shortcut because, like I say, whatever you don't, the I you don't dot, the T you don't cross gets exposed in this league very quickly. And it's a very physical league. It's a very tough league, a very demanding league, very competitive league. And when you're a competitor, that's what you want to be a part of. I'm very blessed to be here, thankful to be here, and got a lot of challenges coming up, but I think our kids have done a great job. I'm very pleased with the off season our staff and our strength and conditioning staff and our coaching staff have done with our players. I thought spring went very well. I thought we got a lot of things established, and like I say, you never have enough time in spring, especially in your first one. And the second half of spring, I thought we did things in a much more efficient manner, and wish we had about 15 more days, but that's just the way it goes. You don't get to do it that way. But then I think our summer strength conditioning program has been excellent. Our kids, if you'll see it, are in excellent shape, and the reports are getting back from our strength conditioning coach has been excellent. The meetings which we were allowed to have and the short meetings we were allowed to have with them have been excellent. The guys are really starting to grasp what we want to do and how we want to do it, and looking forward to the challenges because, like I say, we got a very challenging schedule, got a great season coming up, and but looking forward to it. And like I say, it's going to be that way every year you're in the SEC. So, anybody questions?
Thank you, Coach Fisher. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have Victoria, Amanda, and Jean Louise that can bring a microphone to you. Coach, we'll start right here in the center along the aisle. Please stand and give your name and affiliation, please.
Bill Bender, Sporting News. Jimbo, you've had some early success on the recruiting trail, so what's the most consistent message you're giving about Texas A&M to those recruits?
Well, I think first of all is the direction in which we're going and way we believe and why we can have success. And I think it's a whole comprehensive package. When you're recruiting, I mean, you want to win. Everybody thinks about the winning. But when you get to Texas A&M, when you see the academic success it has, the Aggie Network at the end, and then the commitment from the university as far as facilities and the things in which we are, and then the success in which our staff has had at previous stops in which we see the vision of our program, and then playing in the best league in college football, I mean, it makes it very easy to recruit to. And our staff has done a heck of a job there, and the people, and also our players. I think our players have done a great job once we've gotten guys on campus of selling what we're doing and being a part of that, as I say, because I think your players recruit for you every bit as much as the university or your coaches. I think they can sell your program because like I say, when you're around the players and you're there on a visit, they'll tell you within 5 seconds as soon as the coach walks away. He's either full of bull or he's telling you the truth. That's the way it is. And I think our players, our current players have bought in and had a big part of that success.
Okay, Coach, we'll go over to our right-hand side. Please stand and give your name and affiliation, please.
Hello, Coach. Kamari Darrington with the Montgomery Advertiser. James Foster is one of those recruits that came in. What has been impressive about him to you so far and his role within the quarterbacks right now?
Well, I think first and foremost is his ability. He wants to be great. His work ethic, his demeanor. I think the things he did in college and in high school, from building the high school program which he was at and where the levels he took them from, because I believe they were winless when he started out, or had just a few wins when he started out as a quarterback as a sophomore there, and then took them to 10, 11 wins as a senior. I think his competitive nature stand out to me. Of course, he has great arm talent and physical talent, but I've loved his demeanor and his work ethic as much as anything. And also Tank Jenkins in that group, too. We got Tank from Montgomery, too.
All right, Coach, we'll go over here on our left.
Gary Smits, Florida Tom's Union. How you doing, Jimbo?
Hey, Gary, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. Jimbo, in the back of your mind, in retrospect, all the years you were at Florida State, did you always think that you would be back in the SEC at one school or the other?
I really didn't. I had, like I said, I had no intentions of ever leaving Florida State. Was very happy there and very content there. But as you know, life takes changes and decisions are made. But I was very happy and at a great university there.
Okay, we'll go here in the center aisle. Do we have one? Yep. All right, here we go.
Howdy, Coach. Jay Clemens, NBC here in Atlanta. You talked about there are no shortcuts, but I see that you have Clemson and Alabama in the first 4 weeks. How does that daunting task that you have, how does that affect your preparation for when you try to change the culture?
Well, I think it gets your attention. I'll say that. It definitely makes your kids wonder. And I think when you have those kind of games in the early parts of your season, I think it makes your summer that much better. I think it gets their attention. I think they understand the competition level and what you come to. But, you know, the great teams I've ever been a part of, as crazy as this sounds, you prepared for your opponent, but that wasn't what it was about. It was more about the culture and what you created from within yourself and the way you wanted your team to play. And I think that's what we have to understand first and foremost. It's great that we play those two teams, the top 2 ranked teams in the first 4 games of the year. But I think great teams, it's not that as your opponent becomes faithless, it's not that you disrespect them. It's this that you understand how you want to prepare. And I think I'm hoping that that's the way our kids go about it. It doesn't matter because, you know, when you play those two, it doesn't matter when you go play LSU and you go play Auburn, you go play Mississippi State, you go play Georgia, you go play Florida, you go play Ole Miss, you go play Arkansas. I mean, whoever you're going to play in this league, it's going to be that way. The venues and the competition level. So hopefully it's about us getting ourselves ready to compete against everybody all year long.
Coach, we'll go down front here in the front row. Ron?
Yeah, Ron Higgins, Nickel.com, Times-Picayune. Jimbo, you were, over the years, various schools came after you to coach. Besides length of contract or money, what elements did you always look for in considering a school? I mean, what has to be in place for you to finally sway you to go somewhere?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think, as I've said before, the administration had a big part of it. My relationship with Scott Woodward in the past, knowing Scott and what he brought to the table. And like I said, we were at LSU together many, many years ago, and there was a lot of changes that had to be made there at that time, and he was a big part of that and understood the things that has to be done. And I think it's very important. You can coach and you can have players, but if your administration doesn't see, not that the one that the past president didn't, it did. We had great administration at Florida State, I'm not saying that, but his relationship was also one that I knew I could trust when you're making a change, when you're in such a good situation. If you're going to make a change, has to be something that you know is credible and someone you've maybe worked with in the past or you know has the same vision in which you have, and I think that had a big part of it. And then you start researching the history of A&M and about first you have a tremendous recruiting base, then you have an unbelievable academic institution, then you're able to take care of kids afterwards with the Aggie Network and the job placement programs and the things that go on. I think it's just an opportunity there and a challenge that I just didn't want to walk away when I knew we had the administration in place that will allow to have the same vision in which we have.
Coach, we'll go back over to our right on the far aisle.
Brent Swarneman, Houston Chronicle. Your first head coaching job, you transitioned within the program. What has been the biggest challenge for you in taking over an entirely new program?
Well, I think first when you were a head coach in waiting, as we went the first, I believe we might have been the first one at that time. I don't know. At least it allowed you to know the people in the organization as far as in the building about who controlled what, and also the players, what their strengths and weaknesses were. I think the biggest thing was the evaluation of your players, evaluation of your personnel within the building, and the structure of the university of how it operated to get things done and the timetables it had. I think those are challenging when you first go in, and you have to be, as I say, you have a plan, but that plan has to have a little flexibility in it to figure out how things are done. And again, I say this with the administration, knowing the administration, that helped tremendously in that, but that is a different venue than being a head coach in waiting.
Coach, we'll go back to our left, the second row. Bob?
Hey, Coach. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Hey, I was reading, I guess last February, the A&M Chancellor gave you a plaque at a public deal with an open date, win a national championship. Did you know he was going to do that? What was your reaction? And does that put even more pressure on what's obviously a pretty pressurized job anyway?
Well, people are never going to put more pressure on me than I put on myself. in this business. I mean, this is about dealing with pressure. It's about dealing with that. I thought it was kind of nice. I liked it because it showed he had the same commitment that we did, and I think they also put their actions in place by the things and the programs and the things and the help and support in which they give our university in the athletic world. So I think Chancellor Sharp doing that, there was no problem with that at all. I have a great relationship with him, and matter of fact, a very good relationship with him, and I thought it was kind of nice myself. Hopefully we can fill that in quickly.
Okay, we're going to go here, the second row.
Hi, Coach. Tessa Meyer with the AJC. You were speaking about pressure just now. Do you think there's a more intense pressure on new coaches to succeed in the SEC more so than the ACC, especially with Kirby Smart excelling so quickly?
No, I don't. I mean, we were able to do it quickly at Florida State. He's able to do it here. I don't. I think your pressure in today's world, everybody wants instant gratification. Everybody wants things quickly, and that's just the world we live in. And it's all part of this business is dealing with that and putting things in place to do it. So what you can't worry about is the pressure, and you can't worry about the results. You have to go through the process of doing things the right way, because if you don't set things up right, you're never going to get the results you want. It's like the foundation of a house. It may come up quickly, but it'll fall quickly if the foundation's not there. So you got to do things right to be able to execute. But pressure is just part of this world. It's the world we live in.
Coach, we'll go back over to our left-hand side along the wall.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Last year, you said at ACC Media Days that you thought that the ACC was the premier conference in college football. Has your perspective on that changed at all?
No, I played in both conferences. I think, I'm going to tell you this, I think the ACC's progression to where it has become in football is because of the SEC. From being in the South and having not just play against, but to recruit against and compete against daily in the way you have to operate your organization. Like I said, where I was at in Florida State, we were surrounded by Florida, by Georgia, by Alabama, by Auburn. That was the closest schools to us, and that's who our big recruiting battles occurred against. We had Clemson and Miami and all those things, but we were surrounded that way. And I think then we excelled, then Clemson's excelled, then Miami's taken off, NC State, Louisville. I think in the South in general, because you're so close, I think it enhanced the ACC's ability to compete and rise its level of ball because of the recruiting competition. And then once you get better players, you play better. And I think the commitment to those universities as far as jobs and the money and the salaries, if you look in that league, they've grown immensely in the last 5 years, 6 years. And I think, the SEC's pressure to stay on top. And once somebody gets on top, like the SEC had the great run of national championships till we were able to break it at Florida State, I think, that was our goal. We had to compete with the SEC, so I think that raised the level of play in the ACC.
Okay, we'll go over to our right side coach, about 3/4 of the way back.
Hey, Coach. Eric Jackson, Lake City reporter.
Hello.
Hey, Vance Joseph, the Broncos coach, he's been saying Trey Marshall's been really impressive through camp. Just if he is able to make that final roster, what kind of player do you think Denver's getting?
Let me tell you something now. Trey Marshall's a guy now, when you put pads on, he loves football. I'm going to tell you this now. He doesn't like contact. He loves it. He seeks it out. He's the guy who truly is committed to football. He plays it. That's just the Lake City way. Those kids in Lake City just grow up that way. They're hard. They're tough. Football means a lot. Physical. Trey was a guy who would do everything in his power to be successful, give his every ounce of effort, toughness, the things that we tried to embody there in our program. And I'm very happy. And you'll get a tremendous special teams player. You'll get a guy that's very physical, can tackle, can cover, can play. And I hope he does make it, because I thought he would. I thought he'd actually get drafted before that, but he got in a great situation and will hopefully do well. I'm proud of him, and he was a heck of a player for us.
Okay, Coach, we'll go down the center aisle or just to the right. He's
all right.
Right there.
Jimbo, Joe Goodman with AL.com. What's your timetable for winning a national championship at Texas A&M, and what are some of the unique challenges that you found being a Texas school in the SEC?
Well, I think your timetable is as quick as you can put things in place and everyone buys into what you're trying to do. You have a timetable. Your timetable's now. You want to win one. You want to win immediately, and that's your place. But is that realistic? I don't know. Could it be? Yes. But it could it not be? Yes. It's all about the process of putting things in place, because you want to build the program the right way up and get kids to understand and buy in. But I'll say this, our attitude of our players has been tremendous. I've been very proud of that. They've come in, there's a lot of change. We do things differently. Not that the other side was right, just a philosophical difference, and the way they've handled it has been tremendous. So, you don't ever know. We went to Auburn that year in 1993, and Alabama was defending national champs in 92, and they come off a 5-6 team. We went undefeated. So it can happen quickly. At LSU, it took 3 or 4 years. At Florida State, it took us, I think, 4 years to do it. I don't know. It could be. You don't ever put a timetable on things because you can't judge people. You don't know how each guy's going to respond and what's going to happen in the chemistry unit, the camaraderie unit, and your coaching staff. So hopefully we're going to do it as quickly as we possibly can.
Coach will go to the back right. Mike?
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel.
Hey,
Coach,
Mike.
Coach, obviously you meant a lot to Florida State. In hindsight, how do you look back on your years there? Any regrets about how it ended? And did it end because of commitment?
No, I mean, listen, Florida State is a tremendous place. I have unbelievable memories. Like I said, I grew up loving them around the Bowden family. Coach Bowden had taken me in a long time ago. I played for Terry and Jeff and all that. So I have unbelievable memories of Florida State. I have great respect for them. I think they'll have a tremendous year this year. I think the program's in a great situation. I think they'll do very well. And my time there, I mean, when you leave, is there ever a good way to leave? I mean, you try to do it the best you can. I mean, wish you could have finished out the season. I mean, but that's just the circumstances it came about. But like I said, I had no intentions of ever leaving there. And, it was very emotional, very tight to those players, very to the people in the community, and everyone there was wonderful to me. And I have nothing but respect and admiration for everything they do and wish them nothing but the best in the future. And it's a tremendous place. It is. It really is.
Coach, we'll go right down front here on the left. Tom?
Hey, Coach. Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. The rate of turnover in the SEC West for coaches has been on the rise in the last decade or so. And there's been a lot of national championships in that division since '07. Can you talk about going head-to-head with your former boss, Nick, and just competing in the SEC West?
Well, I think the SEC, I mean, that's what I grew up in. Auburn, when I was at Auburn for 6 and LSU for 7. And, I mean, it was every week is for the national championship because the teams you play have the capabilities of being there. And whoever can survive that gauntlet of games and come out of there is going to compete. And whoever wins the SEC has a chance to win a national championship. You can play with anybody in the country. And I think the biggest thing about it is understanding, like I said before, the toughness, the effort, the discipline, the pride, the grit you have as a team, and your ability to compete and understand that it's going to be physical. It's going to be tough. I'm not going to be good. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be banged. I'm going to be bruised. And going into the venues you do on the road and the travel and just the physicality of the league, you have to understand that and embrace it and run with it and take pride in coming through that gauntlet of games to be there. And like I say, I don't think there's any the regular season schedule of that league is second to none. And I know I lived it for 13 years. I understand what it's like. I understand the way your players are on Monday and Tuesday after those games and getting ready because you think, well, I just played that big game. You look at, well, that's a big game. That's a big game. And they're all big games, the coaches, but, all these teams have talent. I mean, that's why there's so many guys in the NFL. That's why there's so many all-pros. That's why there's so many rookies of the year. I mean, you go down the list of everything you have, and it's a great challenge. And as a competitor, as a coach, you love that. People say, well, if you're a competitor, why would you run from it? Why don't you go find out? And that's what we're going to do.
Coach, we'll go all the way to the back, just under the goalpost.
Coach Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio. You've had a lot of success developing quarterbacks in your career, and now what do you look for when you're evaluating the position, and how does that transition to the battle between Kellen Mond and Nick Starkel?
No, that's a great question. I think people say, well, what makes a great quarterback? Well, I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's a combination of things, and some guys have different things than others. And I think it's finding out what each guy's strengths are and featuring those. But first and foremost, I think he has to have a certain level of arm talent. You have to have a certain level of ability to throw the football. And then there's got to be an unbelievable competitive nature in you. I think there's got to be a toughness in you. And I believe this, and I know people say I'm crazy. If your quarterback's not as tough as guys you got on your team's not going to be tough. That's the only position in the world you got to stand there and let 310-pound guys run at you. You don't get to hit them back. You got to stand there and take shots and get hit and consistently do things. And when that quarterback's tough and he's competitive and they know he can make the plays, to me, it energizes your defense because they know if they can get the ball back to him one more time, he can play. He'll win the game on offense. They're going to block longer. They're going to make catches. They're going to do the things you got to do. But I've been blessed to be around some phenomenal athletes. I really have, and more importantly, phenomenal competitors. I think when you get right down to it, they all had a certain level of arm talent, but I don't think I ever coached one of them that wasn't a tough guy. I mean, extremely tough and competitive. And when it gets right down to it, and then we featured off of that how they processed information and what their strengths and weaknesses were. We tried to feature is how we called plays and the multitude of our offense. But I've been blessed to have a great deal of guys that have, as I say, laid it on the line to be successful.
Coach will go over to the right side, along the aisle.
Olin Buchanan, Texags. Coach, you had said, I saw a story, I guess a couple of months ago, that you agreed with some of the critics that Texas A&M was soft last year. I wonder, can you tell us what you saw or did not see?
I didn't say so. I just said we're going to play tough. How they played, I have no idea. I have no idea, and again, did not refer to anything back. And it's hard to, a way a coach plays his team, until you understand and been in his shoes and understand that team, I think it's very hard to say anything about him. I just say we have to play with great toughness. We have to play with tremendous physicality. I think the teams in this league that win, the teams that win national championships, and the success we had at Florida State, that's how we played. I think there's got to be a certain level of physical. You got to be able to run the football in this league. You got to be able to stop the run. But you got to be able to create big plays. You have to be tough and skilled. Because you're tough don't mean you can't be skilled, and because you're skilled don't mean you can't be tough. I think there's a great combination there to be able to learn and be able to do that. But I think the offensive and defensive lines, if you ever watch in this league, the guys that can control them are the guys who win. And then you got to go from there in what you do. But we have to play that way. And when I was in this league and we had success is when we had physical, tough teams. When I was at Florida State and we had tremendous success because we had tough physical teams. And I think it's just we get so caught up now in all the spread stuff and going fast and doing all this. You still have pads on. You still got to tackle. You still got to block. You still have to be physical in how you run routes and how you catch balls and how you just do everything. And I just think there's a toughness factor that you have to have and a level that we have to get to.
Coach will go in the center aisle, just off to our left just a bit.
Tyler Horka, Clarion Ledger in Mississippi. Texas A&M is 2-14 in the last 4 years against ranked teams. Obviously, the division you're playing in, you're going to have a few of those games. How important are those games going to be for you guys this year, and how much emphasis are you going to put on winning them?
Well, hopefully put on winning on all your games, because I think each game builds your confidence and your level of how you play. Even though you say, well, that game wasn't important, but we played, it's how you play. Are you playing well and doing the things? Because in those big games that you're talking about, all those games eventually going to come down. I don't care how good you are in this league, they're coming down the last 5 minutes of the game. When you're really good, there's going to be a drive, 2 drives here and there that separate the games. And can you have the confidence to execute under pressure? Because, like I say, when pressure comes, your habits are coming straight to the surface. What you believe, who you are, do you really believe you're going to win, or are you hoping you're going to? You sitting up here, as I call whistling by the graveyard, and just saying things that don't mean anything because we know the press wants to hear them, or do we really believe them? Is it in our culture to think and picture yourself as a champion? When you're talking about playing those games, you got to picture yourself winning those games. Not saying you're going to win them, believing you're going to win them, then preparing to go and win them. And then so those moments and practicing things that you know you have confidence in and you can execute under pressure. And when those pressure moments come, be able to execute them. Because it's going to come down to it. I don't care how good you get, how many good players we all get in this league. They're all coming to the end. And who can execute under pressure at the end is going to make a difference. But to do that, you have to see it, believe it, and then you have to go do it and relax and know. And like I say, don't practice till you do it right. Practice till you can't do it wrong, and have total confidence in what you're trying to do.
Coach will go all the way back in the back on this left-hand side.
Nick Roush, Kentucky Sports Radio. Jimbo, you have a couple of former defensive coordinators, now head coaches in the league. Mm-hmm. How do your relationships change with those guys now that they're opponents?
Just try to beat them when you play them. No, but have great respect for them. You know this, when you play against Mark and you play against Jeremy, those teams are going to be extremely well prepared. Mark has done a great job at Kentucky and getting to the bowl game last year and playing. And I think, we did an unbelievable job for us at Florida State. I have great respect for Mark. He's not only a fellow coach, he's a friend. I consider him a friend. He's a great guy. He's a better person than he is coach, and he's one heck of a football coach. And have a lot of respect for him. But, again, there are opponents on the other side. But you know this, you're going to have to play. And how tough they're going to play. And Jeremy did the same thing. We won the national championship when he was there in 2013, did a great job of being very multiple in the looks he has and has a great knowledge of the game. And like I say, he could have been a head coach a long time ago, and he's bided his time and got the right job, and I think he'll be a great opponent.
We have time for 2 more questions. We'll start over here on the left, front row.
Mark Passwaters with Rivals. Coach, you have talked a lot about running the ball and stopping the run. So my question is this: when you talk about those 2 important units, the running back core and your defensive front, and what you've seen from them so far?
I mean, Travion's up here. He's been a starter. He's had 1,000-yard season in this league before. Can run the football, but more important, I like his leadership. I think he's very diverse, catching the ball, doing things out of the backfield. I was very pleased with the spring he had. And up front, I was very pleased. Kiki's here with us today. Our Durham up front, Clemens up front. Dalen Mack, I thought, made as much progress in the spring as anybody we had. A big nose guard, 320-some pounds. You got Peavy coming back, Rogers in there, Diallo's a junior college guy coming in, Brown, Wright. I mean, there's a Wilson. There's a great group of guys that are mixing in that group, and the guys that put their hand in the dirt in this league on the other side make a difference. And I think that's what separates this league from every other league in football. I think the defensive linemen across the board that everyone has, and you have to be dominant in those areas. And I'm pleased with their progress. Of course, we're not where we want to be, but at the same time, we have the potential to be. And I like the work ethic in the summer they had, so I'm really anxious to see how the fall comes.
Coach, we'll finish up straight in front of you in the back of the room.
Coach Brent Beard from First Coast News in Jacksonville, Florida. Tell us about your defensive staff and what they bring to the program, particularly Coach Elko.
Well, I think Mike is a guy that, they always said, who would you hire on defense? Well, I figured it's the guy that gives you the biggest pain in the tail when you prepare for him. And Mike always did that. He was a pain in your rear end when you had to go prepare for him, because he did a multitude of things while he was at Wake Forest, and playing the run, playing the pass, understood how to play the run up front, understood the physicality part of the game. Coach is very tough and physical, but was very diverse in the back end, which I think causes quarterbacks problems. And also in your running game, how he's fit in the game, how he fits with his extra defender to get the guy in the box, and what he does, I think is critical in today's time, because how it exposes your secondary to play action passes and different things can be very tough, and I think Mike does that as well as anybody. I think Terry Price is a guy that's been in this league forever. He was at Auburn for all those years. I went against Terry for a long time when he was at Auburn. And he was at Ole Miss, has done a great job. He's just coached the first pick of the draft at A&M. He can coach him. He had him at Auburn for years. Terry was a great player at A&M. Bradley Dale Pivoto, linebacker coach. Bradley Dale I coached with at LSU. Great job. We had great teams there, great defenses, has been a coordinator, has been a head coach. So you got a guy that's been across the board. And that Mo Lindquist is another guy. In the secondary is a bright young guy he was actually at Mississippi State one year with Dan Mullen. And left out of there, but did a great job. It was very highly recommended. We interviewed him. I thought did an unbelievable job. I think he's a bright young guy in this business. And Elijah Robinson, who's a guy was coaching at Baylor when we got him from there, but he was previously at Temple with Matt Rule when they had those great runs up there. And he recruited and coached and had some first-round picks at Temple. Did a great job. Great fundamental coach, great energy, does a great job on and off the field with those guys. So I really like the staff, and I think Mike does a great job with those guys, getting them to understand they're young, they're energetic, but they're very intelligent. I think you'll see there's some guys in that group going to be you'll hear their names quite a bit as coordinators, possibly head coaches down the road and in the future of this game, and very blessed to have them all.
Coach Fisher, welcome back to the SEC, and thank you for your time.
Glad to be here, folks.